Well, good morning or afternoon or evening, depending where you are in the world. I'm Sandy Giroux coming to you from sunny Florida here in the United States. Now, in the last video, we talked about how to be a great assistant. And one of the tips I gave was to suggest ways to alleviate your leader's workload, possibly by offering to take something off their plate or help them with it. But it could even be by redesigning a process or procedure you observe not to be working as well as it could, or something else in a huge variety of areas. But one of the challenges that many administrative assistants experience is that of being too timid or shy or even intimidated to speak up courageously. So today's quote is from Winston Churchill, who said, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." So it takes courage to do either one. But remember, both must be done at the appropriate time if you ever want to serve as a leader, serve your organization, and advance your career in the corporate workplace or anywhere else for that matter in life. Speak up courageously. And did you know that at many companies, this is one of the top things emerging as a skill that leaders want their assistants to master? That's right. At one of my clients' organizations, their leaders were surveyed, and this, speaking up courageously, was one of the top things that they indicated they wanted their assistants to learn how to do in the training that I was going to be providing to them. And when I've shared this information with other clients, most are in agreement that yes, they want their assistants to start speaking up courageously and sharing what they know, not only with the leaders, but with each other. So let's talk about why this is becoming such a hot topic. Now, first, leaders are nervous about how many associates they have in many different roles, not just in administrative ones, who are planning to retire in the next few years. Many of these associates have been with the organization a long time, and they have a lot of institutional knowledge that could benefit the organization if only they'd share it. But they're not sharing it. And leaders are afraid that all that knowledge will soon walk out the door and become lost when various associates retire. Sometimes they don't share it because they're not even sure what they've got. They forget that if they're experiencing a challenge somewhere, it's very likely that others are experiencing the same challenge. And they think that if they're doing it, well, everyone else must be doing it, or it must not be that big a deal, right? They often undervalue their own discoveries and their own knowledge and skills. But if you find a solution to a problem, that solution could probably benefit others who are still struggling with a challenge that at least one person, you, have already overcome. So share your knowledge and help others overcome those situations as well. Now, at other times, people are hesitant to share because of that old knowledge is power thing. They're afraid that if they share their knowledge, they'll lose their power. And people won't have to come to them anymore for those answers or rely on them for certain procedures. But let me remind you that knowledge is not power if we hoard it. It is only power if we share it and share it with everyone. Besides, those who hoard their knowledge are not viewed as leaders or leadership material, because a great leader puts the needs of the organization and the team and other people before their personal needs for power and control and even recognition. Now, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't ever want credit for our ideas, but it should not be the thing that holds us back from sharing. Fear that the idea will be stolen or we won't get credit. In fact, former President Harry S. Truman once wisely said, "It is amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit." So just remember, when you're doing enough good things, people will notice. You will get the credit for having done many good things, and even those individual things can be pointed out later on in performance reviews and self-evaluations, etc. So share your knowledge. Now, sometimes people don't share their knowledge because when they make a suggestion, all of a sudden it becomes their responsibility. No extra time, no extra help, no extra resources or money. It's just, ooh, that's a great idea. Let's make it happen. You make it happen. So they stop making suggestions because they're already overburdened with their current tasks. In fact, when I was speaking at a leadership group one time, a woman came up to me afterwards and said, Sandy, something's going on in our organization, and maybe you can tell me what you think is going on. And she said, people used to come up with ideas all the time, and all of a sudden they're not doing that anymore. And I remembered other people telling me about this phenomenon. And I said to her, well, could it be this, that, all of a sudden becomes their responsibility? And she went, oh, it's like I could have had a V8, right? She said, oh my goodness, that is it. That's happened to me. And I don't make suggestions anymore either. So sometimes they just can't see it. But if the organization is overburdening people who come up with great ideas, telling them it's all their responsibility, they're going to stop. So make sure you're not doing this, your leaders are not doing it, and nobody in your organization is slamming down suggestions just by making them do all that work if they come up with a good one. Now, often people don't share their knowledge or their ideas for fear of being embarrassed or told they're wrong, or that just having their idea rejected is painful. And sometimes they're afraid of being asked questions to which they don't know the answers. Now, if that happens, just don't get flustered by it. No one is expected to have every answer to every question all the time. In the next video, I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to respond when those situations occur. But besides all that, the intimidation factor, many times people don't share their knowledge and information simply because they're never asked. They're never asked for their input or suggestions. I used to work for a retailer one time, and I used to get discounts. One of the companies in the group was a women's clothing store. I was their exact target demographic, a 25 to 40-year-old working woman working outside the home. And I even had a 30% discount to buy clothes at that store. And yet, every single time I went in, I came out empty-handed, and so did many of my friends. Why? Because they had garbage on the racks. I wouldn't put that stuff on my body if they paid me. Never mind asking me to pay them. And my friends felt the same. Now, I was aching to tell someone what I knew, but I didn't know if my input would be welcome or if anyone would do anything about it. So I remained silent. And the kicker is that there were 10,000 workers in 3 locations, all grouped together near the corporate office of that company. 10,000 pieces of free market research. If only they would have asked their own employees 2 questions. Do you use your employee discount? Why or why not? They could have gotten so much free knowledge of what to put in the stores and what people were looking for, but they simply never asked, so we never shared. Be proactive. Don't wait to be asked. You have knowledge that could benefit very many people if only you will share it. And while this is a big mistake on the part of leaders who don't ask for suggestions from their closest support partners, their administrative assistants, it's also a mistake for assistants to always wait till they're asked. So be more proactive in making suggestions and helping out where you see a need. Now, some tips to handle this challenge are, first of all, make suggestions, but preface them, as I mentioned in the last video, about prefacing your request to help your leaders instead of just barging in and announcing this process doesn't work, or you need to come up with a better way, or I have a better way or a better idea. You can gently say, I think this process is a great one to help us accomplish our goals, etc. However, I've noticed that there is one area where it's a bit more complicated and people seem confused by it. May I make a suggestion for how we can simplify it. Boom! Simple, easy, diplomatic. Do you see how that suggestion makes everything more palatable? First, you recognize that much of the current process works well. This is important if you're going to make suggestion. This honors the people and the efforts that have come before you, so you don't act as though no one ever had any good ideas or procedures before you arrived to swoop in and fix everything. See, too many organizations and staff and governments, when they change, we see the new leadership or the new people acting as though the previous leadership or staff did absolutely nothing right. And they've come in to change everything that those incompetent nincompoops who came before them put into place. That's the impression we give when we don't honor the efforts that have come before us. But it's not often that everything done by the people who came before us is completely wrong or completely right. So honor the efforts that came before you. After all, we are often standing on a foundation that was built or improved upon by those very people. And be sure to make suggestions judiciously, not across the board as soon as you get there. You don't have to criticize or change everything instantly. Pick the one thing that will have the most impact on the organization and suggest that change first and alone. This will allow you to build credibility slowly as you get success with that first project without alienating everyone else who's been there a while in the process. I hope that's helpful to get you thinking about how to speak up more courageously at work. Again, if you like this video, hit the like button, let us know, subscribe to the playlist by hovering over the circle and then clicking on the subscribe button that is represented by my face, my smiling face. And don't forget to share this playlist with anyone you feel could benefit from it. If you have any questions and that you'd like to have me answer in the future, please feel free to leave them below in the comments section, or you can just email me at sandy@thewildplace.com and I'll get to them as I see them here or get emails from you. And now, as I've mentioned before, in the next video, I'll share some suggestions on what to say when someone does ask a question to which you can't find an answer quickly, which often causes intimidation and hesitation to speak up and make further suggestions. Meet me over there, and we have some help coming your way.